This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about The River from 1951, directed by Jean Renoir. The tagline for the film, RJ: beauty, mystery, delightful humor.
What? Huh? Wait.
Yeah. Yes, RJ.
Okay. Is that how you would describe the film?
Nope. Particularly the last one. I don't think.
Yeah, there's not a lot of humor in this.
Doesn't come to mind.
There are some playful actions, but nothing that I would describe as humorous.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Synopsis here from Letterboxd.
Mm-hmm.
Director Jean Renoir's entrancing first color feature, shot entirely on location in India, is a visual tour de force. Based on the novel by Rumer Godden, the film eloquently contrasts the growing pains of three young women with the immutability of the Bengal River, around which their daily lives unfold. Enriched by Renoir's subtle understanding and appreciation for India and its people, The River gracefully explores the fragile connections between transitory emotions and everlasting creation.
Do you agree?
I mean, would you agree that this is a very nicely well put together, like, not even a summary of the plot that we usually get, but like the back of a box selling this?
Oh, are you saying that words like transitory are not like accurate to the things? I'm just kidding. Yeah, this none of that means anything.
Yeah.
Like none of that mean, because I when I watched this yesterday with Andy, because she didn't watch this one with me.
Okay.
She watched like 5 minutes and she was like, "Nah, I'm out of here." But she was like, "What's this movie about?" And I was like, "I don't really know. Let me read the description." I read this and she's like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "It's about a river in India. That's all I can tell you, babe." I was like, I don't know.
It's the river. I don't know if it runs through it or what.
Yeah, I said I don't know what the end game with the river is. I just know there's a river there.
What's its motivation?
Yeah. What is like the river a metaphor for?
Mm-hmm.
Jarrett?
It's the fifth character.
Oh, kind of like how the apartment building is a character in Rosemary's Baby. Is that what you mean, Jarrett? Have you ever heard that?
Exactly.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a weird description. That's not what I would say, but you know, I don't work for Criterion, so What do I know?
So we're confronted once again with our friend Jean Renoir.
Mm-hmm.
Some might even say running afoul of Jean Renoir.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming in this week hot. It's kind of like, oh boy, here we go. What's this about? About India, huh? Great. That's what I need. A Frenchman making a movie about India with this evocative title, The River.
I got a pretty good screen cap of the 6-minute intro from Jean Renoir, where it says, as a Frenchman, it is pretty easy for me to understand all of India. And I went,
People get the doors for him, I believe he mentions.
Yeah, I was like, what? I was like, what does that mean?
So I watched that today. And man, it's very telling in some ways. And it's like some like real ultimate old man stuff where it's like, I have an interesting story I'm going to tell you, like Grandpa Simpson style. And then he proceeds to kind of tell an anecdote and then completely drifts off from that to something else. Pretty old man effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
It's great times and of its time. Some of the comments he makes talking about how he's a citizen, or I'm not sure if these are where things start blurring, because there's also the Martin Scorsese interview where he talks about the movie.
I didn't watch that. Did you?
I did watch that. Because he talks to, I think either Renoir said this about himself or Scorsese referred to him as a citizen of the world of films. Because there's this thing about how, so after Renoir fled Europe with World War II,
Mm-hmm.
After the war ended, the French were like, "Come back, Renoir, come back," and he's like, "No." And then basically he got a lot of shit for that in his home country. They're like, "What? We're not good enough for you?" Jean Gabin, he is like, "This fucking guy, what a piece of shit." That's a direct quote.
That's a direct quote.
Yeah.
This piece of shit. This fucking guy.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, very much. So, old man's telling his stories about what a great time it was making this movie, how welcoming India was to him.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
it's not mysterious. He didn't find it mysterious at all. I'm like, huh, interesting. I didn't say anything about that.
Yeah, I mean, he says a few things in that one. A few things that you're like, interesting.
So,
weird.
I'd never seen this movie before. Knew very little of it. All I know is that going in, Roger Ebert has it on his great movies list. Martin Scorsese considers it one of the best movies ever made. Wes Anderson was so moved by this movie, he made Darjeeling Limited as a...
Oh, is that what the inspiration was?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good content.
Yeah.
Darjeeling. Yeah, good content.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so I watched this movie on Monday night. Monday afternoon, something along those lines. My first note, RJ, was, "Oh dear."
And what is that applicable to? What's the context for that?
Well, my next note here is, it's the white colonists hanging out, doing whatever, with this backdrop of what have you.
All the India stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're there in the background.
Kind of like slotted in.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I made notes of like, who are these actors? Because I kind of I recognized Esmond Knight, who is the dad. Like he's been in some stuff. He's I don't have him written down offhand, but I know him. I've seen that guy. And Valerie, that's played by Adrienne Corey. She is the famed rape victim in Clockwork Orange. If you remember her.
Famed.
Yes, I think that's.
I mean, I have a list, but I didn't remember. Nope.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. So this is a movie about a guy called Captain John. He's looking a hard 27 years old, depending on the lighting. That's like how old the actor was in this movie. He was only in like 4 movies ever.
Was this the first and last one?
Not sure on that one. I don't know if he was cast necessarily for availability, but he actually himself had a wooden leg, or only had one leg.
I think apparently he did. He only had one. Like he only had one leg in real life.
Yes.
And I think it was maybe lost from war.
Yeah.
Somewhat like Renoir.
What?
Did Renoir? He had both legs. He was just shot in one leg. Right?
Yeah. So Jean Renoir, the director. Yes, I was telling you this earlier. Okay. No, but the actor, who played Captain John.
Yeah,
he's also he's only an amputee, playing an amputee.
Yeah. But
keeping it real. But I don't know whether or not he also lusted for underage girls.
That's remains to be seen. We can't say that. But in terms of the movie, yes. That is the plot of this film.
Because it is 1951. But it's set in 1946, I believe. But that's kind of...
I mean, the year is irrelevant.
It's hard to say. Well, I got some issues. I got some problems, RJ.
Okay.
We're getting there. Okay. My description of this movie is ultimate Saturday afternoon background watching while cleaning windows and vacuuming, having tea with some baked goods from Safeway, half watched on your iPad, etc.
Okay.
And so I kind of left the movie at that point on that day is like, man, oh man, what a waste of my time. But then I felt bad. I felt bad about this, RJ, because I see people love this movie, and I was like, maybe I'm wrong.
Am I wrong? No, the kids are wrong.
I was Principal Skinner, and I was like
Well,
wondering, maybe I got this wrong. Maybe I wasn't giving myself over to this movie. This thing that's like this like really paper thin melodrama punctuated with this strange ethnography. That just like, you know, in 2021, it doesn't work maybe as well as it did for audiences in 1951, who were maybe perpetually blown away that there was a world outside of their own doors, and they could now see it in the theater in Technicolor.
Was that the big appeal at the time?
Well, so that's one of the things that Renoir talks about in his intro thing, talking about how he read I think it was like a New York Times book review or something like that, and this book by Godin, The River, was getting all these rave reviews, and he's like, well, it sounds amazing, I gotta check this out. And then I read it and it was great, and I wanted to make a movie about it. So he got the rights to it, and no one wanted to make this thing because they're like, hey, you need tigers, elephants, Bengal lances.
Do you think that's accurate? Do you think that if there's no elephants, it's not India?
I think for in the late 40s, probably, to make a movie, like if you're wanting money, you gotta have some action. I mean, I didn't look up the history of depictions of India in like Hollywood or British films or whatever, so I'm not exactly sure, but I would gather that this movie's kind of more naturalistic and documentary footage use of India in a movie was probably ahead of its time. For its time,
it's possible. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of presenting like, here's people and how they live. You'll notice that they're not riding elephants all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing that I would say too is I did think that it was fairly like, it seemed pretty, like, not genuine is not the right word, but it seemed pretty fair with its representation of like India. It was like, this is part of their culture. This is what they do.
This is life on the river, mostly, I think, is what it's showing.
Which I think was like, I think I like that stuff where they were showing like how the Indian people like lived and like certain customs and things. But then there's the side story here where I was like, I feel like these are almost two different things, but I guess not really, because it's like it adds to it. I don't know.
Yeah. So do you recall Rummer Godin, the author of this? She also wrote the novel which Black Narcissist was based on.
Oh, I thought she wrote Blade.
She might have. Like what? Like in the comics?
No, like the screenplay for the first film. I thought she had written that as well.
Okay.
That wasn't her? That wasn't Rumor?
Well, I'm not sure. I didn't get that far on her Wikipedia page when I was doing my research.
Oh. Okay. Well, maybe I'm confused.
So you remember that Black Narcissist?
I do. I like that film.
That movie came to mind while watching this, actually, because I was like, when have we seen this part of the world depicted in the Criterion Collection up to this point? And I'm like, well, there's like Nepal, and that's like a lot more of a little pulpier, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's maybe a little closer to, say, a Temple of Doom version of India.
A little bit.
Which is, and again, in its way, problematic, maybe. So if you're thinking about those Stranglers of Bombay, death cults, and stuff like that, Temple of Doom's on that line. Black Narcissist, it's a little bit more of a romantic view, but everything is so amped up in that movie in this like very movie way, and this is more like, everything's plain.
Which it's definitely just mundane everyday life for some of it, just people hanging out, doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Mostly.
One of the other things that people often mention with this movie is the father of Indian cinema, Satyajit Ray. He was assistant director on this movie.
Of course.
We haven't, of course, seen any of that trilogy of movies or Rise other movies.
Not yet, but I mean,
we will. It's they're coming. I think I got those Blu-rays ready to watch.
You have that on Blu-ray?
I do.
For the show or just in general?
For the show at some point. I could watch them at any point. I could watch them tomorrow, but I'm not going to.
Oh.
That's not what we're about here. Spine by spine.
Oh, okay. So wait, how far along down is that? Like 4 or 5 years? 6 years?
I'm not even sure. No,
20 years?
Sure.
Okay. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, yeah, one thing I also learned was that Rumor Godden was disappointed with Black Narcissus, which I did not know. I don't even, or if we talked about it on the our episode on that movie back when. No idea.
What did they say about us?
Though the writer.
Oh, okay.
Of the novel Black Narcissus.
I was gonna say we didn't write that book. Is that what somebody said?
No.
I got you. I'm catching up here.
You're getting there. You're getting there.
I'm getting there. Continue.
Okay.
Continue.
So I was trying to place like when this movie actually takes place, because the movie's released in 1951. The novel's written in 1946. We know that Captain John fought in a war, and I'm like, okay, so I'm assuming this is. It feels like this is 1940, like contemporary-ish. But there's like a really important part of this that comes along though is, so like was it 1947? India has independence. Like that's like that, like the Gandhi, England? Like from like Britain, right? Like Gandhi would be happening at this point in time, not on the river or anything like that, but like the push for independence is going on. And of course, this movie's like it feels to me very apolitical, even though I think actually, if you start looking at the characters through a particular lens, you're like, like it's very low key. And yeah, it should be noted that the author of this, Rumor Godden, she was born and raised in India, which is, of course, Martin Scorsese's out when he says, well, some people accuse this movie of being colonialist, and but it's like, but she lived there, so it's fine. And I'm like, does that make it okay, Marty? Is that how that works?
I mean, that's how a lot of people justify or rationale lots of things.
Yeah.
Is it not?
Yeah.
It's like, it's fine.
That's fine. I mean, hey, Rudyard Kipling was also born in India, so I guess that he's fine too.
Was Jean Renoir though?
No.
Renoir?
No.
But he was French, and based on his interactions and the thing, or his own voice, he says that the French understand India better than most, I think. Well, it was very easy for them to pick it up.
He did.
He thought so. Does he not speak for France?
No, I mean, he's become a director of the Universal, a citizen of the world of film.
Damn.
He's beyond those types of things. And this is where we start getting into, I find, uncomfortable territory when thinking about this movie, and this weird link that I feel that the Westerners have when it comes to spiritual mysticism and like Eastern religions, when they start talking about Hindus and Buddhists and stuff like that. Martin Scorsese, what movie did he direct, RJ?
Goodfellas?
Kundun.
Oh, not Goodfellas?
Well, he did that one too, but he also did
Okay.
Kundun. And it makes me start thinking about guys listening to Paul Simon, listening to music with their steel drums, Peter Gabriel's Last Temptation of Christ score. This is very 80s. So like Marty is, of course, he's like, yeah, I love the river. He's of a generation where like this is like how the world was, and I mean that's the way he's probably going to think for the rest of his life, because he's old. Talking about content.
Just Just cause he's old.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you could say Jean Renoir was the first Universal content creator then, if he
Yeah.
was above those other things.
Right. And I mean, like, so Wes Anderson, I mean, he's like,
Yeah.
he's this weird, like, again, this, the way people, I mean, I know people have taken trips to India. They go on these pilgrimages
Mm,
and they have this like idyllic view of India. And so
yeah.
I'm often suspicious of that impulse and like what India means to them and what India actually is. And I do think that there are parts of the movie that do tackle that idea, and in fact, really do confront that to a point, but it's
Yeah.
limited. So I wound up watching this movie a second time.
Oh,
No,
you did?
I did.
Interesting.
RJ.
Interesting. You've done that a handful of times.
Yeah.
I'd say
Yes.
a handful of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes because you liked it and you watched commentary. Sometimes because you fell asleep or you were just resting your eyes
Just resting
during
my
the
eyes.
film, and you needed to kind of fill in those gaps, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how was your second viewing?
Well, about the same.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Good.
So let's lay out this movie. I've been talking
Sure.
for like almost 20 minutes here.
Allegedly, yeah.
So this movie opens up with a greeting with rice paste.
Oh, is that what that was? I was trying to figure it out. I was like, is that like chalk with water in it or something?
I believe it's like, yeah, it's rice all mashed up into a paste.
Oh,
and they
okay.
put it on the floor as a welcome, saying hello.
Okay.
And then, yeah, the ethnography of the river begins.
Mhm.
And you're like, oh, this is life on the river. With a narrator. This
Mhm.
narrator, that is the character Harriet. This
Mhm.
toothy, red-haired girl.
Mhm.
I will say that I think the narration in this movie is pretty bad.
The narration.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan of the narration. And I think the reason why is, so this is where it comes back to my question of like, what year does this take place in? So this teenage girl, like whatever she is, probably like 14 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's in 1946. And so, okay, I imagine that the author or person writing in their diary still sounds like a woman that is like reminiscing about her childhood, like decades down the road. But it's like, what a strange approach to this material, because for this movie coming out in 1951, it's actually like depicting, like it's trying to present hindsight
Yeah.
about a period of time that's like in such flux that it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't hold up. I feel like this person would be actually writing, if it's the year, it should be later or earlier, and then it makes a little bit more sense.
So are you saying that
Because
This
it's the author, right? It's Rumor Godin, but but because of the way they make these subtle changes of like time frame, because like maybe he lost his leg in World War One. The only thing I know that says at 1946 though is Roger Ebert, who's notorious at getting information wrong all the time.
Oh, well, he was wrong about a lot of things.
Well, even like factoids like this, and I looked it up. He just kind of threw that out there. That's the only thing I've seen noting that. But anyway, it's just strange because it presents this idea as hindsight. I'm like, well, this is bad hindsight. Like this author's perception is really wrong based on the information available to them in 1951, because they're trying to write what someone would write years later, and they would just skim over all the politics. But maybe that's accurate. But it felt off to me, and so like the narration just seems like it lacks what someone actually would be saying.
Is that
Considering like all the things that would happen, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the transformation of the country, which is kind of represented, I guess, with the Melanie character, which we'll get to. So anyway, so the movie opens up with this ethnography of the river. Then we get introduced to the family on their like, I don't know, their massive property / like if kind of those big wide porches. Always makes me think of plantations. Those houses on plantations.
I mean, I guess.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's no fields of whatever. They all work at the jute factory, or he's the manager of the jute factory. Do you have any?
Jarrett, what's jute?
It's a plant you make rope out of and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and other things, I'm sure. Jute.
Jute?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was unfamiliar with jute, but it looked fun
We meet
when they were packing it up.
Valerie, the rich girl. She rides.
Oh,
She
Valerie.
has a horse, and
Oh.
her daddy owns. She doesn't talk like this, but her name's Valerie, and
Uh-huh.
and they say that she's like wealthy, and her dad you never see. He
Mhm.
owns the jute factory that the father manages.
Yeah.
That's their relationship, and she just shows up. In fact, it's like you could, even if you blinked and missed it, you would assume that they were sisters, because this kid has
Mhm.
tons of siblings. So many sisters. The twins, Flopsy and Mimsy and Victoria and blah blah blah. Babies everywhere, and there's little Bogey, the only boy.
Did you say Topsy?
Yeah, Topsy.
Topsy was one of the characters in this?
That's right.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
She needed the money. Then we're introduced. Yes, we have Harriet, their narrator, protagonist, mother, father. Poor mom in this movie. She's got nothing. She just sits there and looks serious.
Yeah,
And-
she don't got much.
No. My note here is these kids are kind of crappy actors.
I mean, that's childhood acting always has ups and downs, right?
We have Nan the nanny.
It was actually Nan.
Yeah.
That really kind of fit in well, because
What a
if it
coincidence.
wasn't, yeah,
Nan the nanny. We have
Yeah.
Sleeping Sikh.
that guy is probably my favorite character.
Well, yeah, he's got a lot to work with.
Yeah,
No.
I just like that he sleeps so much.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
He's the gatekeeper.
Pretty good.
And then-
Pretty good.
And then it's like we have Captain John with his one leg comes to live with his uncle, Mr. John. The
Do you think they were named after each other?
They could be. They could be. So we learn Mr. John, he's an Irishman, and he has become absorbed into the Indian culture. He, in fact, married an Indian woman, and with her, he had a daughter named Melanie, who he has sent off to British school with British kids, and she comes back, and she doesn't have a British accent,
What?
which I find odd. Because that just seems like what would happen. Because
Well, I mean, what happened to Madonna? Because she never went
Yeah.
to she never went to England.
you don't
but
even
she-
have to go.
But she got an English accent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I didn't. I read someone else mention this, and I pointed it out, and I went, "Yeah, that's interesting."
you go, all right.
Yeah. And of course, there's a mention that, like, well, there's her, and then there's this like young guy who's like,
How young?
I don't know, her age, like 20s, and he's like kind of
Yeah.
like you can tell he's nosing around a little bit. And
What do you mean nosing around?
well, you know what I'm saying, RJ. And we
I
get this
don't.
we get this offhand comment by Harriet about like that Melanie's without caste, and it's just kind of like, wait a minute, are you going to unpack that at all? No, we're not going to talk about the caste system, RJ.
And dowry and stuff like that.
yeah, we're going.
You don't want to talk about dowry?
Well, I mean, there's going to be that assumed thing. You know all about this in this movie. We're not going to get delve too much into that, though. This is about romance with a beautiful backdrop, because that's what this movie is. But it's about universality, and then we'll capitalize on some of the beauty of the place, and we'll have some talk about Kali and gods and a dance number and Dawai, and that'll be good. We'll call it a day.
Jared, what do you know about Dawai?
Well, I know that Diwali got brought up a lot a month or so ago because of COVID and people doing celebrations. And I noticed that like there's a real speedy, we got to put a lid on that.
See, I didn't know what that was, and then a friend of the show, Oliver Granger, messaged me his Diwali plates because they were having good food, and he lives in New Zealand, so they weren't under lockdown, so it's totally legal. He wasn't doing bad stuff, but
Nice and legal.
yeah, nice and legal. And he was like, yeah, here's my Duali. And I was like, what is that? And he's like, you don't know about that? I was like,
Oh.
Nah, dude. I was like, I live in Alberta. I don't know about anything.
Well, if you lived in Edmonton, you probably would know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know. Probably not. I mean, I
Much
live a pretty sheltered life, Jarrett.
The larger cities we have, there actually is like populations that live there that celebrate it.
That's not in like our
A big,
city.
what's that?
80% senior citizens, like our city.
Yeah, and decidedly white old Christians.
Yes, and that's what I mean. I live a pretty sheltered life because I don't even interact with those people, but I just come home. But if I were to go out, that's all that would be there, right?
So hey, so you learned something here, RJ, in the movie?
No,
right?
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay. Yeah, so this so-called message of universality that this movie that Renoir is talking about, I don't know. He's just ignoring the political realities of India, I feel, in an obvious way. But they're just like, I'm not sure what the point of the slideshow of the National Geographic of like, hey, this is how they eat, this is how they live. And it's kind of like, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about this. Mm-hmm. But I guess for audiences who are seeing movies as an escape, they're like, India on the screen.
Wow. Isn't it crazy? They're not eating cheeseburgers.
So one of the things that this movie people mention often is how beautiful it is. Stunningly beautiful. Yeah. How did you feel about watching this movie? I thought it looked, I mean, there's definitely moments, the color and lighting are pretty low key, but also very striking because they're always talking about Renoir's father. Renoir's father was this great painter, and you can definitely see it in his son's films. And I don't know. There's like this one shot of the tree with the blossoms coming over, but you can actually see how they've like hung them into frame. So it's like artificial. And then there's like, hey, here's some shots of like plants and trees in blossom. Isn't that beautiful? It's like, sure. It looks pretty grainy. Like the quality of the print that's on the Criterion, maybe it's not spectacular, or I don't know. It's subjective, I guess. I feel like considering how much attention it gets, how people talk about this, I'm like, if you say so.
That kind of stuff's above my pay grade, Jarrett.
Yeah.
But there were some nice things. There were mostly I was just kind of like, whatever. I really liked when they were washing those cows in the river, though. That was a pretty nice scene.
That was nice.
But not as much for the cinematography. I just liked what I was looking at. I was like, that's good. Wash that cow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What I mean, Jared? Wash that cow.
Wash that cow.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just don't think about how this religion's being used to keep you down.
No, don't think about that, Jared. Just wash the cow.
It's just the way it is.
Just wash the cow. I mean,
wash the cow.
Just wash the cow. Everything's bad everywhere.
Charm those snakes. Exactly. They're all what a shocking idea of religion and power structures working hand in hand.
I mean,
just to serve the elites. What a novel idea. But again, this is a movie. It's a nice movie. It's a melodrama. Do I expect every movie that depicts any place in the world with like shots of rivers and people living on it just be like, look how nice it is? It's like, why don't they don't make a lot of movies like, or when they do make movies of this like all the time in America, it's like we call them like documentaries, and then we punch them up with some sort of like, I don't know, 1950s noir thing about like corruption, what we're doing to fight the good fight. It's like, is this what America is? No, and I don't think, and no one would say that is a depiction of what America is. It's a pulpy piece of fun. So I'm not sure why necessarily I should hold a movie about India to the same standard. But when there's like these things that are like, oh, this is literally about like these people living on this property, upper class factory worker or factory owner that we never actually we don't really see that part. That seems like we're not going to talk about the sweatshop. we're not going to think about that part. It's just there.
It's
a different era.
Definitely there.
A different era.
At the time, it was like, well, who else is going to do it?
But it's curious because the reputation of this movie seems to hand wave a lot of that. Is my my issue, I guess. So, anyway, parts of this feels like info dumps for, like, that are in the like Moby Dick, the novel, where there's huge swaths of like, hey, here's all this technical stuff on shipcraft.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, I guess that's there.
I could have used some more jute.
More of a breakdown on the jute. I
would have liked that.
I would have liked to hear about this caste system. Sounds
Jerry.
interesting.
Just watch the cow.
And then it's family neighbor dance night. All the girls are trying to dance with the one-legged guy.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got to get tired pretty fast dancing on only one leg, right?
I would. Fuck, I wouldn't want to dance either. It would suck. But he gets bullied into it. And then we get into Captain John's pedo vibes.
Well,
yes. See, it's all a matter of what age is Valerie? And the actress was 21.
I would say
she's playing younger.
She's portrayed as not old enough, is how I would describe it.
Or just old enough.
The way I was watching the film, the entire time I said, she's not old enough.
It's some people will say that, well, he doesn't really have much interest in her, really. He's really into Melanie. And I'm like, he's playing with that young girl's hair that he just met flirtatiously. And like, let's just take a better look at your face. Yeah, there's some shots of this man that I'm like, huh.
I mean, I think there's something to be said about like teenage infatuation with like older people, because that's definitely a thing, but that's not what the movie is about, right? Like here's an example for you, Jared. You know that show Bob's Burgers?
Yeah.
So the oldest daughter in that show, she's kind of boy crazy. She's always going after boys and she likes the older boys. But the way it's shown there, it's very wholesome, and it's just like very kind of realistic about where she is in that place. But in that show, there was never like a 30-year-old who was in the war who like showed up at Bob's Burgers and was like, "Hey, Tina, let me play with your hair a little bit." Because I feel like if that were to happen, people would go, "Ooh, what are you doing here, guys?
What are we doing here?"
In my mind, it was always a little bit too young. Even like the girl the older one who he's actually going around with, I was like, I feel like she's almost too young too. I don't know. Yeah. I felt like both of the girls were too young for him.
Well, yeah. So you're talking about Melanie?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Melanie character was created for the movie. She's not in the book at all.
Okay.
She got brought into that, and obviously Godin was okay with this. I was like, yeah, great. She liked this movie a lot. So the character is, I mean, the way I started thinking about it is Melanie is a result of British colonial rule, so as represented by Mr. John, and India is the woman, the wife, who is never seen because she's dead. So she's been taken out of the picture and she's never coming back. She's just dead and gone. And now the British man has raised what resulted of this union and sent her to British school. And you're like, well, this is the only way this would ever be depicted, because you're not going to see a story of a white woman whose husband was Indian and died. You're not going to see that in 1951 or even talk about that, because people, they get weird about that shit.
Well,
when you used to look at some of those fucking psychos on Tide commercials.
What are they doing in the Tide commercials, Jarrett?
What are they doing in them? Just depicting people in the world in happy relationships. Maybe they're a mixed race, and then people have problems with that, especially when it's a black man and a white woman. Still, like, and so you're like, fascinating. So obviously, this is the safe route to go, is to have the white man with his mixed race daughter.
See, when you said psychos in the Thai commercials, I thought it was more like people who are like laughing, like, and then like spilling like Jello all over their like white gowns.
Well, I'm
'Cause
talking.
that's kind of crazy too.
No, the psycho is what I meant to be about the people online who make death threats.
Oh, okay. I was just like,
boycotting laundry detergent companies.
I see. I was gonna say it's like, yeah, they're a little bit like exaggerated. It's like I don't think people are actually
Psychos,
on
racists,
themselves.
that type of thing.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. So the new India of 1951 when this movie comes out, which is the Melanie character, she was born from that history and desire that like, well, India and this guy, they wanted it to be together. We're just going to assume that like that it was meant to be. There was no subjugation. And now he's been here long enough, he started to take on parts of it himself and embraced it as part of himself. And the India before is dead. We can't go back to that. This is the future. India that is part Britain rule that will carry forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's really it's like she's the most interesting character in this movie because everyone else, I don't know. They are, I guess, the remnants of the empire who are struggling with whatever they're dealing with. Like, I want the old man to like me. No, I want the old man to like me. And then the guy, the veteran, he's like, there's not a country full of one-legged people. It's like, and man, people are just shitting on him all day long about being one-legged. It's like, what the fuck? What's this about?
Well, hey, you got 2 legs over there, you weirdo.
Yeah.
People do shit on him quite a bit, but I'd
shit on him too.
Yeah, I mean,
not for being one-legged, just kind of for being
he's kind of a pouty little guy too.
Kind of
like,
a little chuddy, little cipher.
He's like, all these girls want to hang out with me.
No,
he does that. He makes that sound a lot.
So yeah, we get this sort of like love square as opposed to a love triangle. Though I don't know, it's not super convincing. But we get these little tales of like little bogey. He wants to charm a snake, RJ.
That guy reminded me of you so much, little bogey.
Little bogey.
Yeah, that's the Jarrett character in this movie.
Was it Camus, his Indian friend?
I didn't catch his name.
Canu,
maybe.
And they're running around, and it's like, oh hey, there's a black cobra snake in the tree roots. Let's hang out with that secretly. Well, I mean, because we're gonna charm that. We're gonna charm it one of these days.
It was a good idea. He saw someone else do it, so why wouldn't he be able to do it, right?
Exactly. Well, if this Indian man can do it, this little white boy certainly should be able to. He's like Anakin Skywalker.
I mean, yeah, like all that dude was playing that flute.
What do you think Bogey's M count was?
Not too high, apparently.
No, he didn't get time to be trained.
Yeah, not super high, apparently. Yeah. But
so yeah, okay. So Harriet wants to seduce old one-legged guy. Mm-hmm. She plays coy. I note here, this is really just not the most engaging material for me. And it's typical with Renoir. He doesn't elevate it to being interesting.
That's the Renoir touch?
Yeah. That's the Renoir touch. Yeah. I guess what I don't buy with this sort of film's mission statement is, I don't know. This is like supposed to be it's like a taste of India.
Well, apparently, like that's what he said, right? Where he was like, well, I was in India for a year, and I like it quite a bit. So let's talk about that. Let's look at that. Show you guys what India's like.
Right, and then there's this like backdrop of these like people who like, I don't know, like the people in the movie. You mean? Yeah, well, it's like when you're making a movie about India, it's like, what are we gonna do about the white colonists?
Oh.
And then this other stuff's background, and they were like, oh no, but it's gonna be a metaphor. It's called the river, you see, and we're gonna talk about the river. And it's a cycle because you can like. That's why there's like so many songs about rivers, because It just is, it's, you can just interpret it however you want.
I see.
And bring whatever meaning you want to it, and then be like, see, isn't that important?
It might be.
You know, Wes Anderson loves this movie, but you know what? He's also a Redbeard guy.
Yeah, we all know how Redbeard turned out, right?
That's right. And then back to the story. We have story time with Harriet, reading where she's talking about Krishna and Lady Radha. We get a dance off. People talk about how much they love that in this movie, the use of dance. But hey, at least this is a dance scene properly framed, where it's like we see the full body moving rather than like weird jarring close-ups and shots where you don't know what actually is going on. So that's something.
Yeah, you do actually. It's not as like what's the word? You know, like dizzying kind of thing. Where it's not like that, but yeah. Well, I mean, Renoir himself was talking. He's like India is dance. He's like, and if you've been there, you'll know that it's dance. And it's like, I haven't been there. Is it dance? Is that what India is? I don't know. Maybe.
I ask, y'all like pale, sweaty people in cotton?
You know we do, buddy.
Because this movie's got you covered.
You know we do.
Then there's this, like, near the end of the movie, there's these weird things I'll mention. We must always tell father when there's snakes in the garden. And I'm like, huh.
So wait, do you not tell father when there's snakes in the garden, Jared? Is that what you're telling me?
There's only really one snake I know of in a garden.
Like, and then Eden, do you mean?
Well, at the very end of the movie, apples come up, and then there's like a big hard Eve drop, and I'm like, whoa, what's this about now? Like, what's this like religious element tossed in, like these little illusions? And I'm like, so the snake and the apples and being expelled from paradise, this is about British rule and India's like is Britain being expelled from paradise?
It's possible.
I guess that's like something that's in there, which I'm like, okay, then what? I don't know. Again,
well, that's the colonial side of it, right?
Yes, but it's like, but they're not. That's not what this is about, apparently. But it is clearly mentioning this stuff. So, yeah. Now, of course, you know, Captain John. He's over Valerie because she's not very nice, making him throwing things at him, and making him topple over on his wood leg. But now he's into the Indian girl, but who gives a shit?
What was that game they were playing, Jared? It's just they had like a wooden hoop, and it's just like I toss to you, you toss to me, and then we take a step back. Yeah. And I toss to you, and you toss to me, and we take a step back. Is that all it was?
Until it reaches its natural conclusion
of wooden leg man falling over.
So yeah, this is a movie about white English people sad that things aren't working out. It seems. True. Yeah. So in terms of India being the river, being an uncontrollable thing that changes, empires die and become something else, and the receipt of foolish boy controlling the snake bites back.
Oh shit!
Further loss. Dead kid.
Is that a metaphor?
We get a nice dead kid shot. Well, it's about like some loss, some things happen, and then you send that kid packing down the river. We had a Mr. John. He says that we should be glad that a child died a child. And I wrote that is certainly an interesting perspective. I'd like to subscribe to your newsletter.
Yeah. My eyes kind of perked up at that as well, where it was like, you know, this is probably the best thing that could have happened to that kid. He doesn't have to grow up, realize that childhood is the only thing worthwhile, and then when you're an adult, everything's bad and you hate yourself and all these things.
And then Melanie, she really, like, man, she's going after talking about Captain John's one-leggedness too. Like, they're all just banging on about it. And then it's like a weird thing where she's like, well, you have, like, she says, we all have something we hate about ourselves. And she's like, you've got your one leg. And then she never actually says what Schurz is. She stops herself, and you go, "Oh, is this about being mixed race?" Like that's my assumption of what is not spoken. And you go, "Huh, what is it?" So I don't know. As far as like what these characters represent, I'm not sure.
I don't think you need to overthink it. And
then we get our protagonist, little Harriet. She attempts suicide.
Yeah.
But is immediately like rescued and okayed in a crossfade. You could blink and miss this big dramatic moment. It is like nothing. She just like gets off the boat. She goes into the water, and then it crossfades to her sitting wet in front of a fire and just explaining, "Yeah, some fishermen saw me. Pulled me out."
Yeah,
and you're like, "What?"
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on when I was watching that. I was like, "What's going on here?" I was like, "What happened off panel? What did I miss here?" I was like, "There's something going on."
Well, it's like I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like in the middle of the page, you're like, "Oh wait, one of the most important," or it feels like an important moment in this character's life happens, and it's just like you could have completely missed it. And you're like, man, that's strange for a movie to like not lean into the drama of anything. It's like, no, we don't want that. Might be too. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it got dropped. Maybe there was more to it. And they're like, no, let's keep it subtle. And it's like, maybe too subtle.
It was for me, for sure.
But you know what's not subtle? The teeth in this movie. Everyone's just it's just teethy, smiling.
How do you feel about teeth, Jarrett?
I don't know. You need them, but I don't like them. It costs you a lot of money.
Weird stance. Well, hey, they're trying to get that universal dental in our country. It'll never happen, but man, are they trying.
And you know what? Let's top this movie off with, let's bring another child into the fucking world. This family's got like, what, 7? And one's dead? Let's get another.
When you already got 6 or 7, what's one for?
They got another. Let's get another one out there.
Pump them out.
We've got to get another boy one of these times.
Well, isn't that what it's all about?
And these parents look so old. They should stop. They shouldn't be doing this anymore.
Do you think they play with their kids, or do you think they don't?
That's what the snake in the tree's for. But they're not supposed to get killed by it.
Well, I guess it's like, I don't know what it's like.
I don't know.
Huh.
So RJ, what did you think of The River?
Oh, fuck. What do you think I thought of The River? This is not my kind of movie. I didn't have a great time with it, but as I said before, always credit where it's due. I actually did think that I think Renoir was trying to show some of India, which is nice. He was like, I think he was trying to honestly be like, this is how these people are. It's pretty cool. And whether or not it comes off that way or comes off like that or not, I don't know. But I think he tried, and that's good. And I did like seeing a lot of the practices there and the talk of Hinduism. And like, even though like the narration's a little wonky, I wish I had more of this. It would have been even nicer if this was just a documentary on a couple of people who lived there in like the 1951 or whatever. It's like, that would have been cool. I would love a documentary of 1951 in every country. Just see what was going on, right, Jarrett?
Sure.
It's like, what was going on in Guatemala in 1950? I'm interested. So I like that. But I did get some weird. It's kind of like what you said earlier too, where it's after this year, it's definitely more noticeable than ever when you have like movies, especially where it's like, here's a white man and he is in a foreign land. Isn't that crazy? But guess what? He's pretty well taken after, or well looked after. He can do whatever he kind of feels like, right? It's like a vacation for him, no? Like, cause he's not working or anything, is he?
No, he was. Well, his uncle's rich.
Yeah.
Or he's rich enough.
Rich enough.
They have a conversation about it, isn't it? It's not about addition. It's about subtracting.
Oh, that's what you do when we edit too, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's not about adding things; it's about subtracting things.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, there's that, and then which is like whatever. I mean, history things like I don't care about that kind of stuff. But the thing that I did like, the only thing that actually took me like actively took me out of it was I did think both of the girls were way too young, and it was just like I was like I feel like this is a weird like a weird thing to like ground your story around, because it's like you could have made them older, or it's kind of like the example I said before. It's like, yeah, I know teenagers like get infatuated with older people, but I was like, I feel like there's a better way to show that as well. So the whole time I'm watching it, I was like, what's this guy gonna do? Is he gonna steal this kid, like the little girl? Because I was like, is that how this movie
Wow,
is gonna go?
he's going to ask for her hand in marriage.
Which it would be essentially stealing that kid.
Oh, I've got a dowry.
Here's a dowry for you. What is it? He's like, I'll take her, and you don't have to worry about her anymore. And they go, nice. Yeah, so I thought that was a little bit strange. I don't know. I think you actually kind of. I'm not saying a whole lot, but I think you actually hit a lot of the big points. Where some of it looks nice, some of it doesn't. Some of it plays, some of it doesn't. It's not an outright bad movie, but I don't see you dropping this Scorsese, Wes Anderson stuff on me. It's like I don't see that at all. Like I mean, not in terms of influence, but it's like where they're like, oh, it's amazing. It's like maybe for you guys, not for me.
One thing I want to mention too is the assistant director on this, Jarrett Rye, he never watched this movie until like 1967 at like at some like Renoir retrospective, with Renoir in attendance, and that was the first time Rye watched it, and he was kind of like, yeah, I don't really get anything out of this, and I'm like, yeah, he's just like because I mean, but he went on to like his own film career, and he would say that Renoir was like an influence on him because,
well, yeah,
so there is that element. So you can from this he went on to be like, well, I'm going to actually depict India from like an Indian perspective in a, I don't know, genuine is a weird word to use, but from from the place that which it comes, because I have no idea what the Indian film industry was like up to this point.
Have you ever seen Kung Fu Hustle? I think it's kind of like that.
I have, but
similar tones. Similar tones. No, that's interesting too. Like, and that's what I mean. Where it's when I think what I said way earlier was like, I like the parts where it's just like showing the Indian people just like living. I was like, that's cool. And then there's the other part, and I was like, I feel like it's almost two different stories. And it's like they're using all that other stuff as like backdrop for the context to build up where they are. And it's like, I get that too, but it's like I'm almost more interested in the what's going on with these other people. I want to know about that dude washing that cow. What's his deal?
What's his deal?
What's his deal? I want to know about the cow washer. I don't care as much about these rich British people that just kind of live there. I was like, well, whatever. Like, I mean, like not even rich, but they're better off than the Indian people for sure, right? So it's like,
yeah, this is the thing. Like watching, I don't want to see John Renoir's India. I would want to see Rye's India. I want to see like the Apu trilogy, but we're not there yet. But
India by way of France.
Yeah, well, by a man who's declaring himself one of the universal. And
content creators?
No, not yet.
Oh, he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's not there yet, but yeah, I don't know. But it's always so weird, like the draw of India for Westerners in their pursuits of finding themselves, and I'm like always like, suspicious of that. I don't think, and this doesn't really feel like it changes my mind too much about.
Yeah.
And then the people who, like Marty, he did the same thing with Kundun, where he's like, I'm going to do my version of this.
Yeah.
Because Buddhism becomes very trendy for your Californian set, your Richard Gere's.
I was going to say that's just because of Richard Gere, buddy.
Well, he's
Richard Gere
for
and
some
Lisa
reason.
Simpson.
Yeah. Well, yeah. it's like, well, yeah, I think it's a lot about, yeah, a poo in with Paul McCartney in his garden up in the top of the Quickie Mart.
Was Apu Buddhist or Hindu?
Hindu.
Hindu, yeah.
Yeah, when you said Lisa Simpson, I was like, oh yeah, Hindu for a moment, and I was like, yeah, yes.
I think Andrew is Buddhist. I think.
Ah, maybe one day you'll find out.
We got a don't ask, don't tell policy in this household.
Beautiful.
So you do whatever you want, I'll do whatever I want. We'll just leave it at that.
Just tell her to keep out of the garden and away from the apples and the snakes.
Stay out of the apples. So do you think this was covertly a Christian film because of all that stuff?
No, it's in there, and I mean that's the baggage that the white Christians would bring with them to India to get these illusions. And why is it in the movie? It's like, well, reconciling these things with the place that they're in that challenges whatever worldview they would have come to with that, with what they were raised with. But in terms of the movie itself, yeah, I don't know. I do think there's something about like this being expulsed from paradise, which is India, I guess, in terms of like independence. It's like, oh, we can't come back. It's like, no, you can still live there. Like it's all your power still remains. They're still going to look at you. They're going to talk to you, and then there's going to be the ones. Then there's the people that are right beside you. You're like, oh, they're not going to talk to them because they're beneath them. And yeah, good times. Good times. I don't know enough about it.
Good times.
Good times.
Did you say good times?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I think like I said, I think this movie is fine. It didn't do much for me, but like, whatever. Right?
Whatever. You want to hear from some people who hated this movie?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I'll be okay with that.
What do we got here? Is this Lead Dame?
Let me see. Yeah, Lead Dame.
Or Lead I'm?
Something like that.
1 star. I hate voiceover narrations.
Well, they don't like a whole lot, Jarrett.
See, I actually do like voiceover narrations. I just thought the one in this didn't work great.
Yeah, it's not great. This person doesn't rate a lot of movies, to be honest.
Okay.
They only have 4 movies rated, but they have 1,000 movies watched. So other 1-star films include Tenet and The Little Things, the Jared Leto film, and then 1.5 stars to Midsummer, and that's all their star ratings. That's it.
Cool.
That's it, man.
How about I 1 star?
Okay.
Has exactly the kind of quaint wholesomeness I just find completely sickening. Sorry, you can ignore me. I hate Ozu too. My heart's closed.
They hate Ozu.
No.
Who hates Ozu? You know what I mean? Favorite films include Golden 80s from 1986, Shark Skin Man and Peach Hip Girl from 1998, Femme Fatale, yes, the Antonio Banderas one, and What's Up, Doc from 1972. Pretty interesting. They gave 5 stars to The Exorcist 3. That's a good rating. They gave 5 stars to Playtime, Jarrett, one of your favorite films. 5 stars to Spider-Man 3, which I know you're a big fan of. Not getting a whole lot out of this. Any other 1-star films? Oh, Punch Drunk Love and wait. 1 stars to Boogie Nights. 1 star to Punch Drunk Love. 1 star to
what?
What's that all about? 1 star for all these PTA movies.
Oh, what was the last one?
There Will Be Blood.
Okay.
Yeah, so you know what this person's working on.
Okay. One more. JP as opposed to
Okay.
II. I hated this. The characters were all extremely annoying, the story dull and by the numbers, and the art direction wasn't as inspired as it had been talked up as being. There was also no real connection to India and no genuine fit between the characters, story, director, and the setting.
What do they mean? This person only gives 5 stars or 1 stars. They have 1900 5-star ratings and 1200 1-star ratings.
Okay, that's not helpful.
They just gave Goodfellas 1 star.
Okay, there you go.
And here's their review. Scorsese's trademark hideous humor and lame macho posturing goes so overboard here, I get embarrassed and have to leave the room. That's what they say. But one of their favorite films is The Last Days of Disco from 1998. So take that as it is.
Huh.
You know?
That I will.
Take it as it is. Weirdos. I mean, not like weird, but like strange. Strangeos.
You got any final words here for Jean Renoir or The River?
I mean, no. I don't find it incredibly offensive, but at the same time, I don't find it incredibly engaging. If that means anything to anyone, I don't know. What about you? You watched it twice. What's your hot takeaway from this thing?
Well, I would have probably blown it off if I just talked about it at the beginning, like it did. Mm-hmm. Rewatching it and watching special features, it didn't really change my mind too much. But I feel like over the course of an hour, I got it out of my system. And Good. I can feel comfortable being like, it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Mm-hmm.
So your favorite directors might be wrong on the things that they like sometimes, or just like things that you don't like.
I find that your favorite directors are frequently wrong on things that they like. At least a good thing that they make their own movies, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And inspiration can come from anything.
Like us?
Like jute rope.
Oh yeah, I'm a big jute boy.
Well, I think we're all big fans of jute and bunnies and cow washing now.
I've always been a cow washing fan.
There you go. Jute is the name of the plant or fiber used to make burlap, hyson, or gunny cloth.
What's a gunny cloth?
Jute is one of the most affordable natural fibers, and second only to cotton in the amount produced and variety of uses.
So just do cotton instead? Is that what they're saying?
Well, or sometimes jute does the job. After the break, the movie persuaded me. We're moving to India.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I was going to say something funny about what's going to happen after the break.
The girls there, RJ, are boy crazy. Especially if you've only got one leg.
Whoa. I have 2 legs. What does that mean?
To double the fun.
Holy cow.
Be there.